Sound? Where's the button? I don't have a button, but if I had a button, I'd be pressing it right now.
There's so much going on in every sip.
There'll be another sip, don't worry. Just gently releasing you from its grip.
Right
I should
there.
not have doubted you for a second. All right, I've been a beer explorer for about 4-ish years now, along with you, Mike. We've been doing this channel, and we've been touching on, some of the world's best beers, the world's most delicious beers. Some beers that could just be called "it's beer." Some beers that are excellent, good, nice, whatever level you want to take in our, beer rating scale that they might fall on. Now, this beer in front of us, never tried this one before. You've featured this on the channel on the Beer Breakfast of the Month episode. This is considered one of the best beers in the world. So I came down to visit you in Florida not that long ago. You were kind enough to get, I'm assuming, a 4-pack.
I did, my friend. Yes, I got a 4-pack.
And you gave me 2 to bring home. Brought them home in my luggage because I just can't get this one in Canada. And finally, I get to taste this along with you. The Ayinger Celebrator.
I'm very excited, my friend, for
Say the
you to
least.
try it and to be trying it together. Mentioned to you before,
Yep.
I think this is a beer that not only is considered one of the best in the world, but I think it's also one of those beers that no matter when you have it, and you might not always be in the mood for it because,
Might not be
it's
in
a
the beer mood,
particular
yeah.
beer, but when you are, it's always going to surprise you. No matter how many times you've tried it, I'm excited. I'm really excited to try it again here tonight and to hear your impressions. So I can't wait.
So we did talk about the Ayinger Brewery a little bit on the Ayinger Privatbrauerei review. So you can go back and check that out if you want a little bit of background on Ayinger. They are a very historic brewery in Aying, Germany. Some say one of the original Doppelbocks. I think according to beer legends, some say the Salvatore, which we've already reviewed by Paul Lanner, is kind of like the originator of the style. And my friend, there's a very interesting beer legend to go along with the ending of that name there, the Actor, right? Because you see a lot of different Doppelbocks from different breweries with that Actor ending.
You're absolutely correct. The Salvatore beer that originally is from the Paulaner Brewery is considered the first one to have used that name, to the point that at a certain point they even had to put register
trademark,
the name
yeah.
to make sure that nobody else, a kind of trademark to make sure that it was the only one used. And the Salvatore name obviously was referring to being monks brewing the beer, obviously to the Savior. So, and being like beer that was predominantly brewed during Lent time or in times of fasting, this would be a very rich beer that would help, and that would be tied into these meals.
See, you're grazing over this in a very professional way, but I must say there's so much more to what you just said. And go back and watch our Paul Lanner Salvatore review if you haven't seen it, because that's just, we go into that in a lot of depth. That was one of my favorite hangouts that we ever did, filming that episode. The monks would fast for Lent, and so they brewed a deep, dark, nutritious beer that became the Doppelbock style to get them through Lent, and they called it Salvatore, the Savior, like you said, buddy, because it saved them. It came down from the heavens, from the beer gods. It was a gift to get them through their fasting periods. And so they named it the Savior, and so that Actor, what's it called? Suffix? What's the ending of a word?
Yeah, I think suffix, it's because prefix is the beginning, I think suffix.
Suffix, there we go. Okay, we'll go with suffix, but let us know in the comments if I'm just being dumb. And normally, man, these bottles come with like a little plastic goat, right? Because Bock is the German word for goat. So it's like the double goat. Bock.
That's why there's 2 double goats on the bottle. The 2 goats holding the glass.
There you go, they're holding up the beer.
And out.
They're beer goats.
Exactly. I'll tell you another little fun fact,
please
my
do.
friend. There's a couple of others, like you've mentioned. Optimator is one. There's also the Maximator, which is actually brewed by the Augustiner breweries, by some considered one of the best breweries in the Munich area. I will tell you, my friend, I had a pleasure to try one time, and that's another one that we might have to keep on the radar. If I ever manage to see it again, I'm definitely going to make sure that to keep some and save some in the beer cellar.
You are my Salvatore, my friend. You are my beer savior, my beer archangel. Saving these beers for me. within the confines of your cellar walls for the times that I do come down to visit you to bring back in my luggage back to Canada. I don't know what I'd do without you. But this is the spoils of our labors right here. Is it just me, or does it feel like heavier than a regular beer bottle?
No, it is heavier, my friend, because it's Doppelbock, and it's
Doppelbock.
It's double.
Is it like thicker glass? Like
I think it's thicker beer. It has to replace a meal, my friend. We just discussed this. It's the savior.
Maybe the plastic goat is inside instead of being worn as a necklace. Maybe that's adding the weight.
It could be. We're gonna find out.
Almost like a widget in a Guinness bottle. It's just a goat floating around in there, releasing methane gas. Let's crack this open, buddy.
Let's do it, my friend. Let's do it.
Dark, malty, and rich. Ayinger, at the foot of the Bavarian Alps, is one of the world's most respected breweries. Family owned and operated on the Platzel, right? Since 1878. All right. It is time to take a sniff of this beer for the first time. Hold him, Beer Moses.
There it is.
Oh. It's not quite Christmas yet, but happy holidays, everybody. Whatever your holidays are.
That's a good way to happy holidays.
Happy your holidays. Wow, that smells like... Okay, let's pour in. Let's do this. Wow. Okay. That is something fierce. Aroma cheers.
Aroma cheers too, my friend.
God.
And nice, isn't it? Huh?
This is ridiculous. I've never smelled a beer like this before.
So, my friend, am I going to start like tradition, or should you start since it's your first time experience? What do you feel like?
I don't know if we need to.
Either way.
Should we disrupt the beer flow here? Should we change the tide of the beer oceans? And
don't cross the stream.
Yeah, we don't want to cross the streams. Exactly. I think you should start, man. I need time to process this either way.
All right.
You've already talked about
fair.
this beer on the channel, so you might have your thoughts or your descriptors more
I have
in line
some,
than I do.
Yeah. And that's very fair, because the first time you try this beer, it can be overwhelming. So, like I said, every time I go back to it, I find something different. Let's start from the notes that probably, no matter what, you're going to find, even if it's your first time experiencing it. I find like these very rich, caramely, almost like slightly burnt notes, surrounded by hints of chocolate, dark chocolate, coffee. You get almost like this burnt pizza crust. I don't know. Every time I go back, like I find like a different angle, port-like to some capacity, almost like that same savoriness that comes through with the fine port wine that has been aged. It's so complex. This is a 3-on-3 for me. Aroma-wise, it's just like as good as it possibly can be in a beer. What do you think, my friend?
Really, everything you just said, you described it perfectly. I have nothing to add to that. The only thing I can add is that I'm salivating from smelling this beer, which hasn't happened to me in a long time. Like, really, that's a 3-on-3. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. And to you, my friend.
First sip of the Celebrator.
It evolves, and it's difficult because this beer, you're tempted to go, the moment you take a sip, it's so complex that you start thinking about the finish. There's so much going on in every sip.
Oh my God. Okay.
I think the main note, if I had to mention one, is really this roasted malt. I like to use the pizza crust, like burnt pizza crust in a wood fire oven. Gives a little bit of that like charred note. But then you get like this coffee and this dark chocolate. We're talking like 99%, chocolate that almost like has no sweetness whatsoever.
Exactly, just like super dark chocolate.
But then you're hit with this very rich maltiness, caramel-like sweetness. So you have all those notes that are predominant immediately, but then like it evolves into the sweetness that is very characteristics of the Doppelbocks. I find this beer to be incredibly complex, very well balanced. Still 3-on-3 for me, man. Like, I mean, there's nothing here that I don't like. What do you think?
Wow, I'm just in a beer daze. Oh my. Yeah, that dark chocolate, you nail it. That's sort of like as high of a percentage of dark chocolate as you could go to. That really sort of just sharp, bitter, coffee-like taste. So you get off just biting a block of just like pure cocoa.
Yeah.
Dark chocolate. Like, wow, amazing. And really delicious, like espresso.
Good
and then a
descriptor.
very strong, bready maltiness. Oh my God, it keeps going. Like after you take a sip, it keeps going.
Yeah.
And new things come out. It's a 3 on 3, definitely. This is a beer experience.
It is.
Mouthfeel. It's funny, like I haven't been giving too many descriptors all the way through like I normally do, because I'm just like, one, you're describing it perfectly. And
Oh, thanks, my friend.
two, I'm just like so in awe and shock of this beer that's just beer bracket tradition. We do a little bit of a refresher for the mouthfeel before we judge that to make sure it's nice and fresh. So get that poured out.
Cheers, my
Cheers,
friend.
buddy. What do you think of the mouthfeel?
It's shocking to me how this beer manages to pack this amount of flavor without leaving any kind, or very little, cloyingness, because the richness of the flavors you would expect, like I mentioned, like be drinking a port or some beverage that normally you would really feel and will stick around like for quite a bit. But they do it so beautifully. It hits right there, like on your tongue. Carbonation cleanses it. Perfectly done. There's no alcohol presence whatsoever. I'm always in awe when I try this beer. So I'm going to stick with the 3, my friend.
I think this is the perfect beer mouthfeel for this type of beer. I think it's moderately oily, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It's not sharply carbonated. When you take a sip of this,
No.
it's not like you don't get like a throat hit off it. There's not like a sharp burst of carbonation in your mouth. Seriously, this beer feels heavy. Like even my glass feels heavy.
Told you, my friend.
It carries a lot of weight.
It's a meal in a glass.
This is like, it's a heavy beer. But when you take a sip, like there's enough carbonation that it's effervescent, not sharp, coats your palate. And when I say oily, we refer to like a lot of big like macro lagers as being oily as kind of like almost like a negative, but this in a very positive way. It coats your palate, and I think it needs to, because that's just a vehicle for the flavors to continue on into the finish. Yes. Because the beer coats your palate, you get all these wonderful things that come out 10 seconds later after taking a sip. It lingers in the best possible way that I've ever experienced with a beer. It's a 3 on 3 mouthfeel. Okay, sound the amber beer alert. Okay, we haven't done this in a long time. Where's the button? I don't have a button, but if I had a button, I'd be pressing it right now, because so far through 3 categories, we have a perfect beer. Normally, if all the categories are perfect, normally it's not going to lose a point in the overall. So it comes down to the finish at this point. Is the finish
it does, my friend,
going to be anything less than 3? Or are we going to have, this is like such a big deal. Oh my God. Before we even get to that, is the beer gong handy? Do you have the beer gong?
I always do, my friend. It's always right.
I should
there.
not have doubted you for a second. I knew you would have the beer gong ready.
It's just within reach.
Is it?
in case
Within
we need
beer
it,
reach?
my friend.
Summon the beer spirits,
It's always
because
in beer reach.
you never know. Never know what's going to happen here. All right, what do you think of the finish?
Call them the beer wizard. Like you said, the mouthfeel, I think, conveys the perfect vessel for the finish to really shine. And then you have this cleansiness that like leaves your palate void for a second.
Man, yeah.
And then things start coming back.
Oh, they
But
come back all right.
They are so precise in the way they come back. Like it, a lot of times
They've got
they're
GPS. They've got beer
in the
GPS.
Distance, they
know
do.
they know their way
Sometimes
back,
they're
and they
a
can
little bit in
avoid
the
traffic.
distance.
They're on ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like they're in 4K. Every one
beer in
of
4K.
the flavors. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
perfect.
but that's how I can describe perfectly each one of those elements on the finish without having to think too much
100%.
about it. You have that roastiness, candied red fruit, like the kind you would have in a jam
interesting.
that wasn't there
Very
before.
interesting.
And then you get like the chocolate again, coffee notes. I like the espresso note that you mentioned, and they're all there without interfering with each other. They just pop up and say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm gonna have to stick with the 3 because I just like it.
You got to tell everybody, perfect beers don't happen every day. We film once a week. We don't always film a review. We review maybe 1 beer a month, 2 beers a month, So they don't happen often. So this is very important, like hallowed grounds that we're treading on here. Mm-hmm. You know what's the biggest thing, and I was waiting for you to mention this because from the moment I took a sip, this was the big thing that stood out to me. And it's funny because on the taste, you get like espresso dark chocolate. On the finish, I get like a milk chocolate. It's like it goes from roasty, dark, bitter, and then on the finish, it's that lighter sort of lactosey, milky kind of milk chocolate that just sort of soothes you as the beer exits your periphery and as you stop tasting it. It's this soothing little pat on the back, just saying like, it's okay. There'll be another sip. Don't worry. Just gently releasing you from its grip as it fades away.
Very well put, my friend. Very beautifully said. Very beautifully said, I must say.
Oh man, we should have a beer theater performance.
We should. It's beer poetry.
But really, yeah, milk, like on the finish, especially that milk chocolate really stands out to me. But it's 3 on 3 finish too. It's by far a 3 on 3. Okay. So now this is very important. I need you to take a deep breath. We haven't done this in a while. I think we need to stop for a second. I think we need to do a couple of seconds of beer meditation. Can we do this?
I agree, my friend. It's needed at this point.
Namaste. What do you think? Is this going to be joining the Perfect Beer Roundtable for you?
When you get to this point, like you're almost looking for flaws, right? Like, because you're, like you said, it doesn't happen often. So the question is there anything that I don't like? I just can't find it, man. Like this is a 3 on 3 experience for me. It's just like I find this beer incredibly surprising every single time that you have it. So it's a perfect beer for me, my friend. What do you think? Is it a beer bracket perfect beer?
There's a single bead of beer sweat dripping down my forehead right now. It might be the lights, the big box light right over my head. It might be the pressure of this situation. I don't know. You know what's really interesting? The beer's been open for a while and I'm kind of swishing it around. When I go in and smell it, I'm getting something I didn't get on the aroma to begin with. I'm getting like a gingerbread on the aroma now.
There it is, my friend. There it is. Now you're starting to understand this
beer is just ever evolving. It's crazy. The longer you leave it open, it just changes. It transforms. And like you were saying, every time you have it, you discover something new. Like I could see that. It's like a chameleon. It's like a beer chameleon. You think it's one thing at first. The first time I took a sip, I'm like, okay, it's almost like an Irish dry stout. It has a lot of like stout-like characteristics, but then you're like, oh no, it's so much more than that.
It's not.
Wow, they're like gingerbread. Oh my God. It just keeps giving new gifts. This is unequivocally a 3 on 3 overall beer experience, my friend. Hit the beer gong. We have a brand new, for the first time since the Delirium Nocturnum last year, we have a brand new. Where's it going? Where did you go?
Had to fetch the beer gong, my friend.
Hit the beer gong.
Here it is, as promised. Here's the beer gong. And be ready. Behold.
Oh, it's been a while.
Let it resonate.
God, it happened. The Ayinger Celebrator. You were not lying, buddy. And it is considered to be one of the world's best beers for a reason. If you can get the Ayinger Celebrator, by all means, buy as many of them as you can. Hunker down in your beer basement and enjoy this beer next to a beer fire, ideally. Wow. This is a rare moment in a beer explorer's life where they get to try a beer like this. Enjoy it, everybody. If you can get it, hope you're enjoying it.
And no matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Never forget. And click the little beer bell down below. It'll let you know when we're in the pub. If you want to have another beer with us down the line. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.